More operations on integers. Remember, when we multiply and divide integers, if two integers have the same sign, when they're multiplied or divided, the answer is positive. If two integers with opposite signs are multiplied or divided, the answer is negative. When we add and subtract, if the integers have the same sign, we keep the sign and add the digits. If they have opposite signs, we subtract the digits and keep the sign on the larger digit. Example 1. Evaluate each of the following expressions and explain what you must do to evaluate each of them. So let's highlight a bit here so we see what we're looking for. We want to evaluate the expressions. We want to explain what we have to do to evaluate it. Well, -8, +1. We're combining the integers. The signs are opposites. So when I look at that, I have to think about the signs are opposites. That means I have to subtract them. So 8 take away 1 is going to give me 7. And the 8 is larger than 1, so we keep the sign, and the answer is -7. Now for the next couple, you might want to pause your video before I talk about the explanation so you can think about the answer yourself and try and do it. -3, -3. There's no multiplication or division. It's just combining integers. Now the integers have the same sign. So that tells me I'm going to increase the number of the digit. 3 and 3 is 6. And they're both negative, so I keep the negative sign. -7, +5. Again, I'm combining integers. I need to look at the signs. The signs are opposites, so I subtract the digits. 7 take away 5 is 2. Is the answer positive or negative? Since the 7 is the larger digit, we keep its sign, so the answer is -2. +2, +11. Wait a minute, I'm going way back here. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. I have two digits, same sign. I add them up, just like I did in grade 1, and I'm keeping the positive sign. Now, something we haven't talked about yet is what if the signs are side by side in an addition or a subtraction equation? For example, if I have -2 subtract -4. If I look at that, and that shouldn't be there yet. That should look like that. -2 subtract -4. Well, I can think about that. I've got one bracket. I've got one number in the bracket, so I can put a number 1 there. Now, my good friend BebMath tells me I should multiply before I add and subtract or before I combine. So really, this becomes -1 times -4. And I've learned that a negative multiplied by a negative is in fact a positive. So now I have -2, +4, two integers, opposite signs. I'm combining them. I keep I subtract the digits, so 4 take away 2 is 2, and I keep the sign of the larger digit, which is the 4, so it's a +2. Evaluate. That just means find the answer, by the way. And these are expressions that we're evaluating. -5 plus -3. Again, there's a 1 understood to be there, and I'm going to do that work first. So -5 plus -3 is really -5, and +1 times -3 is -3. So I end up with -5 subtract 3. Oops, that didn't work out very nicely. Ends up being -5 take away 3. Well, and don't forget the equal signs. I have two integers with the same sign, don't I? They're being combined. So I just add them up and I keep the sign. 7 subtract -2. I see one bracket there. I'm going to put a 1 in front. Now, a negative times a negative is what I see there. So I get 7, negative times a negative is a positive. 7 plus 2, that's grade 1 math. I'm not making it hard. If it's grade 1, keep it in grade 1. Don't look to make it difficult. 9 plus +1. Wait a minute. That's just a 1 there. That's just 9 plus 1. Again, don't make it difficult. It's 10. I'm going to do a couple that have a little bit more work in them. Evaluate the following expressions. Be prepared to explain how you evaluated them. Part A, 7 plus -8, subtract, bracket +6, subtract, bracket -4. I'm going to put a few ones in there just to remember that that means 1 times. Now, BEDMAS, I can do all these multiplies first because there's addition and subtraction separating them. 7 plus 1 times -8. Positive times a negative is a negative, so it's -8. -1 times +6. Negative times a positive is a negative. -1 times -4 is a +4. Now, what I like to do is put all my positive integers together and all my negative integers together when I combine them. So I'm going to put the 7 and the +4 together, and the -8 and the -6 together. 7 plus 4, same sign, easy, add them up. -8 minus 6, same sign, add them up, keep the sign of the larger digit, which is, keep the sign. And now we just have 11 take away 14. I have more negatives than positives, but I'm kind of out of room here. I'm just going to show you the answer. The answer is -3 because there were 3 more negatives than there were positives. We're going to clean this up a bit here because we can't read that very well. Now, part B. There's no combining, is there? I see a bracket, a bracket, a bracket, a bracket. That's understood to be all multiplication. And I'm going to do it in order. So -3 multiplied by -4, and negative times a negative is a positive, so that becomes +12. Then I copy everything else directly down. Now, +12 times +5 is what we see next. Positive times a positive is a positive, so just +12 times 5, which is 60. Multiplied by -2, the +60, the -2 just comes down, -120 because it's a positive times a negative. Part C, pretty straightforward. A negative divided by a negative gives a positive. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Part D has a little bit more work involved. Remember we said before that this is like a fraction, right? Sorry guys, I'm not very good at writing on the screen. There's a numerator and there's a denominator. So we need to fix up the numerator and the denominator completely. Now, this is all a string of multiplication in each of the numerator and the denominator, so we do them in order. -6 times +8 is -48, and we just write the times 10. -4 times -2, a negative times a negative is a positive, so +8 times -5. Now we're going to finish evaluating the numerator. A negative times a positive is a negative, and 48 times 10 is -480. Positive times a negative in the denominator is a negative, and 8 times 5 is 40, so the answer is -40. Now we see two integers with the same sign being divided. The answer's got to be positive, and the answer is +12.